Okay, hello again, guys. Hope you're having a good day today. Today's math lesson is over page 233 and 234, and this is writing decimals as fractions. Now, I talked to you in the other lesson just about recognizing decimals and just an introduction to decimal. What is a decimal point? What is the place value after the decimal? Okay, but today we're going to talk about how to write decimals as fractions. So if it gave you a decimal, could you turn around and write that as a fraction? And that's what we're going to talk about today. All right, let's look at page 233. Let's look at the yellow box. I'm going to write a larger number on the board. Okay, I've got this number on the board. The yellow box says number 1. Since decimals are another way to write fractions, decimals can be written as fractions. Just like I told you yesterday, just because my name's Allison does not mean that I'm not Miss Kelly. We're the same person. Allison Kelly, Miss Kelly. It's just a different way to say my name. And decimals are just a different way to write a fraction. But what you need to know is how to take that decimal and turn it back into a fraction. Now, if you'll look up on the board, we talked about yesterday, or on the last lesson, about the place value of the decimal. So this is in your tenths place. This one's in your hundredths. And the 8 is in your thousandths. Okay, so if I had a number that looked like this, 0.2, and I wanted to change that to a fraction, I would say, well, what place is the 2 in? Well, if I looked up here and there's only one place after the decimal, I would know that it's in the tenths place. So really, it's in the 2/10 place. It's 2/10. We know how to write 2/10, right? So 0.2 equals 2/10. Okay? Let's say I had another number. Look at the yellow box. Number 2 says to write a tenth as a fraction, you just place it over 10. Okay? We know that. Okay? Number 3, to write a hundredth as a fraction, you place the number over 100. Well, in order to write a 100, you've got to have 100 as a decimal. It's got to have 2 places. All right, so if I was going to have this decimal, 0.31, it's in the 1, 2, so it's in the hundredths place. So I read the number and what place it's in. It's in 31 hundredths place. How do you write 31 hundredths? Well, it's pretty easy. 31 over 100. Same thing. This 0.31, decimal 31, is the same thing as 31 hundredths. 0.2, decimal 2, is the same thing as 2/10. You see that? Okay? Because at whatever place it's in on the place value chart. Let's look at number 4. To write a thousandth as a fraction, place over 1,000. Sounds pretty simple. So if I have a number that looks like this, 126, I would say, okay, I need to write that as a fraction. Well, let me see how many places I've got first after the decimal. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I need to know what number I'm going to write it. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to write it over 1,000 because it's in the thousandths place. So I'm going to write 1,000. And then what number is here? 126. So 126 thousandths, okay, is how we write that. Look at number 5, rule 5. It says, a good rule to remember when writing decimals as fractions is to write as many zeros in the denominator as decimal places are in the decimal. So for example, look at this one. This might throw you off a little bit. You got 003, okay? 003. Well, how many places are in that? 1, 2, 3. So what's the place value? 1, 2, 3, the thousandths. Ooh, did y'all catch my error? I spelled thousandths instead of thousandths. All right. So if it's in the thousandths place, when I write this as a fraction, I'm going to have to write 3 over 1,000. Now, if you'll notice, I didn't write the zeros. You don't have to. okay? Because 0.003 is still 3, okay? Now, if it was 300, I would have to write that because that means 300. But do you see how this is 3 and that is 3 and it's the same thing? That's fine. If the zeros come before the number, you don't have to write them when you're writing your fraction. If they come after the number, you have to write them, okay? All right, so 3/1000. So let's look at our work text page. Section 1. It says write equals in the blank if the fraction and the decimal are equal. Write the non-equal sign if they are not equal. Let's look at A. 0.4 equals 4/10, or does it equal? Okay, 0.4. So let's look at 0.4 here. 0.4. How many places are after the decimal? 1. So that would fall in the tenths place. So 4/10. So is that equal? Yes, it's equal. All right, let's look at C. Letter C, I'm skipping B. You can do B. It says 0.71 or decimal 71 equals or doesn't equal 71/10. Okay, well, let's look at it. Decimal 71 equals 71/10 is what it says, is what the book says. Well, let's look at my place value. How many places are after the decimal? 1, 2. All right, so I come over here, 1, 2. Oh, that's telling me it's in my hundredths place, not my tenths place. This says it's in my tenths place, but that's not right. There's 1, 2 decimal places, so we know it's going to have to be in my 1, 2 hundredths place. So, this one is not equal. So you can mark the equal sign and then draw a line through it. So not equal. All right. Now on section 2, I want you to go ahead and finish section 1, the whole section. All right. And on section 2, let's look at it. This wants us to flip it. Okay. Or not flip it, I'm sorry. This wants us to write the decimal it gives us as a fraction. We're not comparing anything here. It wants us to take the decimal it's given us and us write it as a fraction. So let's look at A. It says 0.7. All right, 0.7. So decimal 7. The ugly decimal. Decimal 7. All right. How many places are after my 7? Or after my decimal? Just 1, right? So we've got decimal, 1 place. So it's in my tenths place. So I'm going to be writing it over 10. All right. So to write that, I would write 7/10. If you can see that, that would be your answer, 7/10. All right. If I was doing, let's look at letter B, 51, decimal 51. Decimal 51. Well, how many places are after the decimal? 1, 2. How many places are after the decimal? 1, 2. That's the hundredths place. So I'm going to be putting my 51 over what? 100. So equals 51/100. Just like that. Okay? And then if it's in the thousands place, if it has 3 digits after the decimal, that's going to be in the thousands place. So you're going to write whatever number it gives you over 1,000. All right, so I want you to go ahead and do all of section 2, and you can flip it over. Section 3, I want you to fill in this graph. Now, notice the decimal point before the 5. So everything after 5 is that tenths, hundredths, thousands. Everything before the 5 starts with ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, just like that. And it goes all the way to millions. So hopefully you know your place value. All right, section 4, write the number figures for these words. So it's going to give you a word sentence, a number sentence, and you're going to have to write it as the number. So for example, 643 7/10, okay? If I was writing this as a fraction or a mixed number, I would say 643 7/10. But it wants you to write it in a decimal form. So I'm going to write my whole number, which my whole number we know is 643. 643, I write it like normal. And then how do I write 7/10 again? Remember, I only have to have 1 place after the decimal. So I'll go decimal 7. That equals 7/10. So that's what 643 7/10 should look like. okay? If it's hundredths place, it's going to have 2 places in the decimal. Thousandths place, it's going to have 3 places. All right, section 5. Go ahead and fill in that graph. You know how to do that. Section 6. You can mark out the story problems. Go ahead and mark those out. On homework section, I want you to go ahead and do all that section. I know you just, at home, didn't you? All right, now tomorrow's lesson, I'm not gonna have a video for because it's just a review of this. So if you need to rewatch these videos, you can, but it's just a review. And on tomorrow's stuff, I want you to do all of it but green. And so you don't have to do any green tomorrow, but I do want you to do the homework section and the word problems. Alrighty. I think that's it for today. And also, if you have any questions and you're not understanding something, have your parents FaceTime me. If I'm available, I will answer. If not, you can leave me a message and then I'll try to call you back as soon as I can. But anytime you have a question about it, you can just call me. All right? I hope everyone has a good day. I miss you guys.